Welcome to our public animal feeding. Here we have a fish that is a California scorpionfish. Can you guys guess why it's called a scorpionfish?
Oh,
What do you know about scorpions?
They can sting you.
Yeah, they can sting you. So this guy has venomous spines on his back.
Oh.
So they can sting you. They are related to stonefish, if you've heard of those. Those are very venomous fish. And what else do you notice about Igneous the fish? What about
camouflage?
her color?
Like her color is like kind of like the color of these rocks.
Yeah, exactly. So do you know what that's called when an animal looks like it's
Camouflage?
embarrassed? Yeah, camouflage. So she has really good camouflage. And she uses that to hide from predators as well as sneak up on her food. And she's what we call an ambush predator.
Wow.
So that means that she will just sit and wait and pretend to be a rock, and then when food comes by in front of her, she'll sneak up on it and grab it. So we'll see if she's going to eat her fish today.
And her squid?
We're feeding her capelin fish.
And squid.
So here we go. She just sneaks up right on it. And fish have a special cavity in their mouth called a buccal cavity. So when they open their mouth, it creates that suction and they can suck their food right in. We'll see if she'll eat a second one. Sometimes she eats two, sometimes she eats just one. She might be hungry today. Looks like one was enough for her.
How about the squid?
She likes the fish. That's her favorite.
So we're gonna feed the squid to someone else, or I mean, one of a different fish.
What's that?
So we're gonna feed the squid to a different fish.
Yes, we're going to feed the squid to a different fish.
Ooh.
So one of those fish is actually a shark.
Oh yeah, those ones over there.
And now we are going to feed our swell sharks.
Swell sharks.
They're called swell sharks, not just because they're cool, but because they can swell up and get real big. And that's how they can defend themselves against predators. So they can go inside some rocks and swell up real big. They suck water in. And
My God.
that's how they can hide. So these guys are a shark, but they're not a big scary shark like everyone thinks of when they think of sharks. They are mostly nocturnal, and they hang out on the bottom. We're feeding them squid and capelin fish.
Can I feed them? There's a lot in chili, Virgin. I want to start feeding one.
Gotta wake them up since they're nocturnal. Sometimes it takes them a minute to realize they're getting food. Nocturnal means they're active mostly at nighttime.
Oh, yeah, right.
So these swell sharks here actually hatched here in our interpretive center. They came to us, the Cabrillo Aquarium donated some eggs to us. And they are inside their egg case, which is called a mermaid's purse. It's like a leathery case. And they're in there for 9 to 12 months. And they have special skin, different than other fish. They have teeth on their skin called dermal denticles. Like the dentist fixes your teeth, denticles are teeth on their skin. And these guys will grow to be about 4, maybe 5 feet long. They don't get really big. They have a special protein on their skin that actually glows under black light. So if we had a black light, we'd be able to see them glow in the dark.
You guys do?
We haven't gotten our black light yet, but when we do, we're going to test it out.
I want to try to feed it off so bad.
Do you guys have any questions about the swell sharks?
Apparently I have one.
Uh-huh.
Can they camouflage like the other fish over there?
That's a really good question. They can. So if you look at the color they are, and look at those rocks over there, you can see they're kind of similar color to the rocks.
Yeah,
So
right.
they go over there and they can blend in there, which is good because they're mostly sleeping during the day.
They're probably really full right now.
Looks like they're starting to get full, huh?
Yeah.
Slowing down.
How do you know if you're feeding them all the same?
And by the way, I have one more question.
Sometimes we can tell by, we'll look at them and see if they got a nice big fat belly.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of times I go by their behavior. So if they're not swimming around looking for food anymore, they're kind of getting full.
I have one more question.
Yeah, of course.
How do you know how do you tell which one's a girl and which one's a boy?
Oh, that's a good question. So with sharks, you can tell, these guys might be a little too young to tell, but with sharks, they have external organs, like right about here. Two little organs called claspers, and those are the boy sharks.
Oh.
So let's see if we can see the underside of any of these sharks. See if I can get him to come over here and see if he's a boy shark or a girl shark. Come up here. It might be too full for this exercise. Oh, no, you got it.
Oh, and
Yeah,
just
there's
one more.
One more piece left. All
Do you
right.
have to hand feed them, or will they find food themselves?
They will find food themselves, but since this one's a boy shark. Since they've been hatched in captivity, they've been hand-fed their whole life, so they don't really have as much of a drive to go find food.
Right.
But yeah, when they're younger, they're mostly scavengers, and then when they get bigger, they'll become more predatory. All right, so did you guys see the claspers?
Yeah.
I tried to get them to go up there. So that one's a boy shark. All right, so next we're gonna feed all the fish in this big tank behind you.
And what do you do with the fish when they get a certain size?
Are we gonna feed lobster?
We either put them in a bigger tank or move them to a different tank. We're thinking about donating these to a different aquarium when they get too big, because they are going to outgrow that enclosure.
How about lobster?
Yeah, we're gonna feed the lobster too. That is called a giant spine, or that's called a spiny, California spiny lobster. And if you notice, when you see cartoons of lobsters or at restaurants, they have big pinchers, right? But this guy doesn't have those big pinchers. What do you think he uses to defend himself instead of pinchers?
Probably the spikes on his back.
Yeah, the spikes on his back. Very good. So he's got spines on his carapace, which is what you call the outside. And lobsters are really fun because they have their bones on the outside of their body.
Yeah. By the way, do they use their beautiful colors for something?
I'm not sure if they use their colors for anything.
Probably to track its prey. No.
So we're going to try to sneak that down to the lobster.
She's letting him know.
He's coming the wrong way. There you go.
Wow.
So this big blue fish here is called a half-moon fish. And they're called a half-moon because of their shape of their tail. Looks like a generic tail to me. But that spot behind its eye is actually a false eye. So it's kind of a thing that animals use to trick their predators into thinking they're either a bigger fish or not in the same place where they actually are. So that's kind of a defense mechanism for them.
Are we gonna feed the starfishes too?
Yeah, we are. pattern. Those guys are Kelp Bass. They live in the kelp and they camouflage in the kelp. That's why they have that coloration. And the sea
Lobster's
stars we
back
have
for
here.
more.
And our sea stars are actually going to eat mussels.
Muscles.
So I think they, oh, looks like the lobster might want another piece. We got anything for him.
Does lobster have teeth or how does he chew?
They have little like claws, like around their mouth, and they just rip it up. And that's how they eat it.
Oh, I do see
We don't have anything big enough for the lobster to munch
Yeah,
on.
here.
He'll find all the scraps at the bottom and he'll. All right. All right, so now we are going to feed our stars. There are two different kinds of sea stars in here. Does anyone see the one with the polka dots? It's like an orange color with polka dots.
You see the sea stars up there, the corner?
Yeah.
Over there, we have the giant spine stars. We're going to get our muscles out of here. This is why we're going here. We're not quite done with the other paint yet. So sea stars are really, really strong. They can rip open these mussels. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to open a mussel, but it's very hard. They're called mussels because they're so strong and they can hold themselves together so well. But these guys, their little tiny suction cup feet are like a hydraulic system, which is really, really strong. They use the power of water and suction cups to be able to get their food. So these guys love mussels, and they have an eye on the end of each of their arms, and they can see the mussel.
What?
Yeah, so sea stars have actually 5 eyes. They're not eyes like us that can see like images and colors and things like that. It's mostly light and dark. They also use their sense of smell. And you can see how strong they are. They only have a few suction cups on there and they can hold that mussel up.
Do they have to come off of there to get it in the middle?
Yeah, so they'll kind of like push their body away and create like a big like cup inside,
Right.
so they can get enough suction cups on there to rip it open. And then what they do is they take their stomach outside of their body and put it inside the mussel shell, so they can digest it outside and then bring it back in.
Wow.
And how much of that can you see?
Depending on where they are, you
Right.
can't really see much of it. You can kind of see their stomach. It looks like a little balloon-like thing, but it takes a long time for them to do it, so you have to have some patience.
Right. Some time-lapse photography.
Yeah. We've had a couple people try to do a time lapse of our stars eating, and then they ran out of time.
Right.
All right, so this one here is an ochre star. The purple one is an ochre star. So these guys over here, the spine stars, we're going to feed them next.
And he's gonna get a hose full of plastic. Come see this one, you can see it better.
Yeah, we might be able to see, and we can even come back and check on these guys after we feed the snake. They might be further along. You might be able to see their stomach coming out.
Can you give them 5 at one time?
You might be able to. I haven't tried it.
Now, if you see these in the wild, can you get the clams and feed them?
Probably. They probably would. You could probably
I
hand feed
appreciate
them.
it.
Yeah. This guy might be a little shy because he's being covered by his friend. There he goes. Hopefully they won't fight over this one. You've got your own over there.
How often do you see them in the reefs that we go to and look at the fish and everything?
In the reefs, like,
Yeah.
or where do you find these guys? These guys are in kind of deeper water, but the other stars there, as well as the bat stars we're going to feed next, you can find them in tide pools.
Tide pools?
Yeah, kind of in the low tide zone for the ochre stars. their stomach. And you can see he's reaching around for some food with his suction cup feet there. So we will try.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's sticking very well. He doesn't.
Yeah, they sometimes stick really well and sometimes they don't. So if we hold him for a while, we have to be a little patient. We can try to see if we can get him to eat on the side of the acrylic.
I can see the crab there.
So that guy there is called a striped shore crab. There are about 3 in here. They're a native crab. You can see them in tide pools or even out on the shore here by the bridge. We also have this fish inside here. See that guy in there? Oh, there he came out just in time. So that there is called a bay Blenny. We call her Michelle because she likes to hang out in that shell. And today we actually found out that she's a boy.
How'd you find that?
So some animals have different colors of their genders, so it's called sexual dimorphism. So the males have like an orange chin, and the females have a blue spot like on top of their head. So since she has an orange chin, she's actually a boy. I think we'll keep the name Michelle because she really likes her shell. And so, oh, almost.
Now she's
This one here is called what again?
A bat star.
Bat star.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that?
That one is another bat star. So all the sea stars in this tank are bat stars. We have 3 of them.
Where's
You
that
can
other
find the other one.
big one? Like, that one?
Yeah, I'll let you hold this one. If you hold your hand over the water and hold it out flat, I can let you hold this one. This one's name is Violet. Can you feel the little suction cups on your hand?
Yeah.
Kind of
She's
tickly,
so
huh?
gorgeous.
So sea stars move very slowly, but they are actually predators. So they will prey on mussels and other things like barnacles that don't move.
Sneak attack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What was the name of this one again? You said
Bat star.
oh.
And so they have their hydraulic system that they use their little suction cup feet, and they bring the water in a hole right in the top in the middle of their body called the madreporite.
What kind of fish is
So this guy and this guy, those are called tide pool sculpin.
that?
And we will probably feed them first because they're little piggies. See if I can get this food here. So tide pool sculpin, they live in tide pools, as you can guess. They actually have a really strong sense of smell. And if they get washed out to sea, they can actually smell where their home tide pool is and find their way back home. Let's see, where'd the darker one go? Over here, there we go. All right, so now that we're feeding the animals, we're going to take our hands out of the water, just in case they think that fingers are food.
You have them well trained. That's for the next trip.
Yes.
What are you feeding them?
We're feeding them pieces of squid, krill, and capelin fish. Everyone in here mostly likes the squid and krill. And these guys will take giant pieces of food that look way too big for them. Now that we've got our crab coming out, we better give him something.
That is awesome. And what was that he likes the best?
The squid.
Squid.
How many times a day do you feed them?
We feed them 3 times a week. He's going to try to steal this fish that's just about the size of him. There he goes.
It looks kind of like legs and arms. Like I'm tired. That was exhausting, right? Just a little starfish one.
This is more your size, buddy.
Isn't that pretty to look at? Kind.
about that crab?
That crab, we got him a piece of squid.
Yeah.
He's just gonna hold it in his mouth. All right. So give that piece to this star here.
Violet?
Yeah. This guy's already moved. Remember, we put him up on the glass. He's already moved over to here. So they actually move faster than you think they would.
Yeah.
The other mussel though.
On the other side.
And that's how they're squeezing it to get
Yeah,
the shell.
they go like that and over there.
All right, now let's try to find our third bat star. I'm gonna guess he's under here. Oh,
Yep.
there we go. And also, along with this guy, we have this big shell here. And this is kind of one of my favorites here. It's called a Kelp's whelk.
And there was
Is there
other fish
something
out
that lives
there.
in it?
There was other fish under there.
So this is a type of sea snail. You see it closing up there. And this sea snail has a special trap door on the part of his squishy part of the body called his foot.
Oh.
So this is called an operculum. And they use that to cover up the opening in their shell to protect them from predators, as well as keep them nice and moist when the tide goes down. These guys are tidal animals. And the Kelp's whelk is actually a predatory sea snail. So they eat other snails or mussels or things like that. And they have a special tongue called a radula. So it's a long tongue that has teeth on it. And they have very, very sharp teeth. So what they do is they find a mussel or a clam or another snail, and they'll take their tongue and scrape and scrape and scrape and scrape on one spot until there's a hole. And then they have a special organ called a proboscis that can extend much further than the length of their shell, actually, and they can go inside the animal, and that's how they eat. So that's how they can be a predatory snail. So now we're going to feed our hiding bat star, who's no longer hiding. This bat star is named Peach, after Finding Nemo. And that bat star is named Patrick.
Oh.
And the little fish is going to try to steal it.
The fish that was under the same rock as it.
Did you see that guy in the shell coming out? Can you see?
I want to try feeding one very bad. It looks fun.
She showed us how this starfish was fed.
Oh,
Was it a
it's
clam?
in the middle.
Or was
A
it
mussel.
A clam, and then
It's a mussel.
Yeah, mussel, thank you. And it raised it all the way from its little arm that has 5 eyes on each tentacle, if you will. And he expertly pulled it right up towards its belly, and it's strong enough to open up the clam and eat it. Isn't that amazing?
That's why it's called a mussel, because it's so tough.
They are.
All right, so I think we got everybody in
Another
here.
tank that's also
What about that
having
crab?
its lunch.
That crab, he
The
has a
mussel.
piece
It's really
of
amazing how it can.
a piece
it
of
can
squid
pull it
down
up.
there. You might be able to see, if you look at the side here, you might be able to see him eating. So we have something in there?
Crab, if you
All
notice,
right,
he's having a
good, I
piece of
didn't miss
squid
him.
right now.
Mhm.
He's taking little bites.
And then there's another
Little bites, yep. So amazing.
starfish in that
Yeah,
little
there's another
sea.
starfish down there. I'm not sure what species that one is. I've tried to look it up
And
multiple
it's
times.
different kinds of fish.
He's been here longer than me, so I'm not sure where he
Can we
comes
see it?
from.
Can we see it?
Yeah, he usually hides under the rocks, but now he's coming out. So if you want to go on the other
Oh, he
side,
just came out and he went back in.
oh yeah, you can kind of see his arm a little bit right here. He can see there. Yeah, he's a very fascinating star. Yeah, so I usually just drop a mussel in there. I dump it in there.
Yeah. Colors are just amazing. If you take a minute,
So
and so glad she told us to be patient. because
All right,
you
so
really see the
next
colors
we're
come
going
out.
to feed our reptiles.
Snake.
So, these guys eat crickets.
Okay.
We have some here. And since these are not out in the wild eating a variety diet, we give them vitamin supplement, calcium here. So this white powder we put on our crickets to give them extra vitamins.
Stay down if you can, babe, so that they can see behind you. Just like push up here so they can see behind you. There you go. Perfect.
So these are alligator lizards. They're one of the 4 species of lizards we have here on the reserve.
No, the alligator lizard has a longer tail.
Yeah, they have a really long tail. More like longer in proportion to their body than the other lizards. Apart from, I think the legless lizard might have a longer tail. So another species out here is actually an endangered species called the California legless lizard. And they mostly live underground, so you won't usually see them. They like to burrow. And so you might think that a legless lizard is a snake, right? But there are actually other differences. So lizards have eyelids, and snakes don't. So you don't want to get into a staring contest with a snake. They will win every time. So that's another way you can tell that it's a lizard and not a snake, even though it doesn't have any legs. Did they get any?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, this one got 2. This one got 0.
And you see the common bluebelly lizard.
Yeah, so that's another species we have out here called the western fence lizard.
We have lots of
commonly
those in our
called the
backyard.
bluebelly.
I saw one.
Yeah.
Her name's Mary, but she's died.
Oh. And then the 4th lizard we have here, which is the most common one you'll see out on the trails, is called the Side-Blotched Lizard.
I always have that one.
And they're kind of like a speckly pattern on the back, and they have a black kind of blotchy spot behind their elbow. And we have one over here. We're going to feed him next. So, kind of tight quarters here. He likes to hide inside of his wood chips. But he should come out for some lunch.
I could see him.
Get back so you guys can see. Do you see him? Did he come out?
I think he's in his little tunnel.
Once he sees those crickets, he should come on out. So lizards and reptiles and snakes are what we call cold-blooded. That's why you see them out on the trails sunning themselves. Their blood isn't actually cold per se. They just call them that because they can't make their own heat. They get their heat from outside sources like the sun or a hot rock or a heat lamp like here. And the scientific term for that is called ectothermic. So ecto meaning outside and therm meaning temperature. They get their temperature from outside their body. Humans and mammals and other animals are called endothermic. Endo meaning inside, thermic meaning heat. So we can make our own heat from inside our body. So if we put a sweater on, we can warm up. But if you were to put a sweater on a lizard or a snake, it wouldn't really do very good for them because they have to get heat from outside their body instead of creating it themselves. And this is also a very energy efficient type of system. So lizards and snakes can go much longer without eating. We feed our lizards once a week, so they can go much longer without eating. And we feed our snakes twice a month. They can go up to 4 months without eating in the wild. Has he come out to have any crickets yet?
Nope.
Might be hiding in there. See if I can stir him up.
And when they bite you, do they take pieces of flesh off, or is it just like a clothespin?
They actually, they don't, their teeth aren't really big enough to tear off, there he is, to tear off pieces of flesh, but they will hold on for a very long time when they bite you.
For a very
There
long
he
time.
is. Oh. You can see he's got that pattern on his back, And if you look close, you can see the blotch on the back there.
Stay down. Yeah, put your mask on. And stay down, baby.
He's so cute.
Is he going for the crickets?
No, he's just staring out the window.
He hasn't had his morning coffee yet.
Yeah, he's probably upset I woke him up.
We all need the coffee.
Crickets with no coffee, do I got it?
All right, so next we are going to feed our leopard frog.
Leopard frog.
The leopard frogs are native to California. Yeah, he
You
doesn't
see him,
move
honey?
very fast. He doesn't use lots of energy.
So he doesn't eat a lot.
He doesn't. So we actually don't know what he eats actually. We kind of think he eats the flies that grow in there, but we don't feed him. All right, so now we're going to feed our leopard frog. You won't find leopard frogs or any amphibians in the wetlands because they need fresh water. And all the water here is salt water. But you can find them near parks and streams and such.
Fox sees it.
Certain amount of food in there and kind of get it for
Fox sees one.
against those.
Oh,
This
goodness.
one knows
The
there's no
cricket.
competition.
It's just messing with me. Is he stupid?
I want to see the.
And so, she's not the most graceful eater, but once she gets a cricket, you can watch her eyeballs.
Yeah.
So watch her when she grabs a cricket. Oh, she
Go
missed
down
that
a little bit
time.
so people behind you can see. Go down and go down. Yeah, more.
So frogs actually use their eyes to help them swallow. So they can squish their eyeballs down and it helps them swallow their food.
Whoa.
So this one has to catch him in his mouth, not with the tongue?
Yeah, so frogs actually don't have a really long tongue like the cartoon frogs
What?
do. Yeah.
Ah.
It's only about this long. but-
Oh, they took the gun and the tongue.
Yeah, the chameleons have really long
That's
tongues.
the,
Yeah.
And our last amphibian in here is very hard to see. This is a tiger salamander. She likes to burrow in the dirt, so she gets very dirty and camouflages with her environment.
And very slimy too, huh?
Yes, so amphibians are slimy because they can actually breathe through their skin. So if their skin is moist, they
Right.
can breathe through their skin as a gas exchange.
He's trapped. Cricket is trapped.
And so he's inside his little tunnel there.
Go down so we can see.
I know, sorry, it's hard to see.
Stay down.
You need to use
Wow.
some colorful dirt.
Yeah.
Can you see it, Kenny?
Yeah. Where are the crickets? I'll go find him.
It's
found
nice
him.
that they have no
You
idea
guys
what's going
put
on.
that white powder on them for the
They're good
light
at hide and
and
seek.
so the amphibians can see.
It's helpful, it helps them see it, but it's mostly for their vitamins. Did he get it?
Babe, look at the frog.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Purples.
Get out of the water.
One more second.
She likes to wait for them to come to her. Work smarter, not harder, right?
So cute.
His rocks are upside down.
Now, what makes you have these animals here?
A lot of them were donated to us. Some of them were pets that they couldn't take care of anymore. Some were found and they didn't have the means to take care of them. Yeah, so most of them, a few of the snakes we've bought from a breeder. And the fish, actually, most of them came from the power plant up in Redondo Beach. So they used to use seawater to cool their systems, so they have a big intake in it.
So it brings in the fish?
So they get fish caught in there and they rescue them
Right.
and give them to places like us. But now they've switched over to not using seawater to cool their systems, so it's good for the fish.
Yeah.
Bad for you.
Yeah. Hopefully these fish will live a long time.
Just snow now?
Or you'll have to get your fishing pole out and go catch them.
Yeah, go catch
catch
some
some work.
fish.
Can you go to snow now?
Snow? Oh, yes.
They named the mouse Snow.
So they named the mouse Snow.
And
Don't
by
get
the
too
way,
attached.
Very caterpillar.
So first I'm going to introduce the snakes that we have here.
Mouse.
Yeah, but he's gonna get eaten.
What?
Yep.
No.
By the snake.
You can't eat the mouse.
Like by the snake.
No.
I know it's
So
that.
here we have, up here, a coastal rosy boa. If you guys want to hop up and take a look. Her name is Medusa. And these snakes are native to California, but they are no longer found in the wetlands. And that is due to habitat loss, due to like urbanization, building houses and restaurants and things like that in their habitat. So when a habitat becomes too small, it's called fragmented. And if it's not big enough for them to have a territory or a population, they will move to different areas or become extinct in an area. So they become extinct in the area of the wetlands, and there's a special term for that called extirpation. So if it's extinct in an area, it's extirpated from an area, but they're not extinct all over in the wild. You can still find them in the deserts and the foothills. She licking the glass.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the rosy boa. They're a common pet. So down here is a gopher snake. So these two here are gopher snakes, and they're probably the most common snake you'll see on the trails and in California. They have a similar color pattern to rattlesnakes, and that is not just a coincidence. So they use that as a defense. They pretend that they're rattlesnakes. So with a similar colorization, they also will shake their tail in some leaves to sound like a rattle, and they'll even go as far as to squishing down their jawbones out so it looks like they have venom sacs. So an important way to tell the difference between a venomous snake and a non-venomous snake is the shape of their head. So all the snakes in here have oval-shaped heads because they're not venomous, but rattlesnakes have more of a triangle-shaped head, and that's so that they need a place to hold their venom. So these guys like to pretend they're rattlesnakes, but they're not venomous. And another species we have here is the California king snake. This guy up here is King Arthur. So we have two California king snakes in here. We have Arthur and Victoria. And they are a common snake you'll see out in the wetlands as well. They have different color variations, black and white to cream and brown, but they don't have any red color like the common king snakes people see. So this guy, he's got more of a cream and brown with like thin stripes. And then if you look over at Victoria over here, she's got thicker stripes and they're more black and white. And the California king snake is our friend because they are actually immune to rattlesnake venom. And they eat other snakes in the wild. So if they come across a rattlesnake that's smaller than them, they can actually eat the rattlesnake and not be affected by their venomous bite.
Hi, Raj.
So here,
It's
Sorry,
a
sorry,
ball
Reggie.
python.
oh no, go
How
ahead.
is it that they're not affected by the venom?
They just have different proteins in their blood, I think.
Oh my god.
They're able to not be affected by it.
So a bite would hurt, but it wouldn't kill.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, so it would still hurt.
They'd fight, and
Yeah,
the California would win.
yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes depending on the size, it might be not a fair fight, but since they're not affected by their venom, they
I
can.
never knew snakes would eat snake either.
Yeah, yeah. These snakes in the wild will eat other snakes, anything they'll come across. So another snake we have here is Rogue, and this snake is not native to this area. She is a ball python, and she actually came to us as a rescue. We found her actually on the reserve. Someone had brought their pet and left it on the reserve.
Oh my gosh.
So since she is not native to this area, that can create problems in more than one way. So it can either go in the way of, in her case, she's not adapted to the environment, so she wouldn't live very long. She needs to have a hotter, more humid environment to live in. Another thing that can happen if you release a pet that's not native to an area is they can become invasive. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen red-eared sliders, the turtles with the red. Those guys are highly invasive. They can adapt to the environment and take over the resources of the native turtles. So it's always a good idea to not release your pets in the wild. A lot of people think that they're helping, like, oh, it wants to live outside. But there's a reason why they are pets, and and so that can be an issue, and that's how we got Rogue. Up here we have Boa, another rosy boa, like Medusa over there. And last but not least, we have Neptune up here. She's a corn snake, and corn snakes are also not native to California. They're native to like the eastern and the Midwest of the United States. She came to us as a pet that they can no longer take care of anymore, but we still use her as an education animal. So we are going to get Neptune out, and if you guys would like to pet Neptune and meet Neptune, we'll just have you guys form a line right here. And we have some rules for petting Neptune.
I will not be one.
So when we pet Neptune, we have to use our 2-finger touch. We want to be real gentle. We have to go along the same direction that her scales are going. We also want to not touch her head or her tail. All right, so we know the rules. I need to grab the keys. I'll be right back.
You gonna pet? One. Don't hold in the head. It's not gonna hurt you. Oh, she dropped it, look out!
What?
She's ready to come out.
She is.
Oh yeah, they know, it's time to do my show. I get fed if I do my show.
So they are called corn snakes because they live in cornfields, and they also have a similar color on their bottom to like a Spanish corn or the colored corn. So now, when you pet, remember our rules. We don't want to touch her face or her tail. We'll go in the middle of her body, and we'll go one direction with the scales. So that's going to be from the head side to the tail side. So if you guys want to give her a pet, do your 2-finger touch. And she is, as I said earlier, not venomous. These are all constrictors, so that means that they constrict their prey. And their scales are actually very smooth. And they're not slimy like people might think. Let's give her a pet.
Beautiful. Wow.
Beautiful.
Good job managing her.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Very smooth. Yeah. So we feed her in a separate container from her home, so she doesn't associate her home with food. And then she might see our hands coming in and think that we're a snack.
Fish now.
Huh.
No, not snow.
Well, she knows the feeding cage.
Okay, first feel snow.
You want to feel the mouse?
Snowflake, it's been nice knowing you.
Snow.
Hey, cue the music. Da-na-na-na.
There's snow.
Da-na-na-na. All right, who's gonna win, the snake or the mouse?
Sometimes it actually goes the other way. We had a snake once, maybe more than once, get bit by a mouse and was afraid to eat for a few weeks.
Oh.
It's always a bad sign when your food's eating you.
Yeah, so that's the reason why there are different methods for snakes. Snakes always want to kill their food before they eat it so that they don't get attacked by their food. So that's why these guys will constrict them. And the venomous snakes will take a bite, inject the venom, and then leave and kind of just follow them till they die. So it's a lot less dangerous for them when they eat their food.
Venomous snakes can eat their own venom?
I'm not sure.
Well, if they shoot them with the venom and then they eat it.
Yeah. Well, if it's in your mouth, it might not be getting directly into your bloodstream, like if you're biting. So it probably has a different
Snake
effect.
sees him. The snake sees snow. Snow, run away.
So we feed our snakes twice a month.
Just exploring the cage. She doesn't have a clue. Oh, goodness.
No.
Look at Neptune's unwinding. Uh-oh.
Getting ready.
Yeah.
Snow.
Making room.
Yep.
Ready for the attack.
And you can see how right behind her head, she's got an S shape right behind her head, and that's kind of
Snow's
her
pooping.
pulling back and getting some way to strike.
Huh.
So
Snow
if she makes that S in the back, she can have room for her neck to come out and strike.
The mouse is over in the corner praying.
And snakes don't have the best vision. Their strongest sense is smell. So if you saw earlier, see, and you can see how she sticks her tongue out. That's how she smells. Right
Oh,
there.
Give me a kiss.
Oh,
OMG.
that was quick.
I'm hungry.
Oh, wow.
That was quick.
Wow. That was really quick.
So now she'll constrict the mouse. And they also have a really strong sense of feel. So she'll be able to feel when the heart is no longer beating.
And how many times a week does she feed?
Twice a month.
And she does
Oh, we
have
got
her,
lucky.
she is biting at the same time, right? She's biting.
Yeah, so they use their mouth to just basically get a grip on their food.
Mm.
Their teeth aren't really long enough or designed in the same way to like bite off or chew pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a way that they can hold on to their food while they constrict it. Since they don't have any arms, makes things very difficult to eat.
Come on, get out. Get out.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes they don't have a good wrap on them.
All right, we get to see it again.
That is so sad.
It's the circle of
Unless
life.
you're the
honey.
snake.
If you only knew where your food came from.
You like hamburger?
So she will swallow her food whole.
Watch it burst and squirt against
When it
the
when it
glass.
dies.
Yeah, once it dies, she'll swallow it whole. And they can digest everything in the mouth, the fur, the bones, everything.
Wow.
Some animals can't digest fur and bones, like birds. Birds like the owl that eat rodents,
Snow didn't die.
what they do is their body can collect all the stuff that they can eat, and then they have a separate area where they get the fur and bones and compact it, and they regurgitate it or throw it up, and they call it an owl pellet. So you
Oh
can
my
tell what an owl is
God.
eating if you take the pellet apart and see what kind of bones are in it.
Who's
But this-
next on the feeding list?
This is the final,
The
the grand finale.
Should be.
Yeah,
Who died?
I like to save the best for last.
You didn't disappoint.
Also, if you don't want to see the mouse die, you can dip out early. That's how I like to design them.
He's still kicking.
Oh my god.
How much force is he applying?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that.
Just enough.
Yeah, just enough to.
I guess
Every time he takes a
not
breath.
quite enough yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every time they release their breath, they
It's
get
like
a little
tighter.
tighter.
Hmm.
You can see.
And snakes have a very interesting anatomy since they are elongated and stretched out. They don't have the same anatomy as us. Obviously, they don't have arms and legs. But they also only have one functioning lung.
Oh.
So it's one long, stretched out lung. And their jaw is different from ours as well. It's a common misconception that they unhinge their jaw. Their jaw is just oriented in a different way than ours. And it's actually 2 bones instead of 1. So that's how they can kind of move. Once she gets to start swallowing, you'll see how she moves her jaw back and forth. And they're able to do that since they have 2 separate jaw bones
Wow.
on the bottom. So we were talking about her sense of smell right before she bit the mouse. And so they have a special organ on the top of their mouth called the Vomeronasal Organ. And that's how they can pick up the chemicals on their tongue and convert it into a smell. like we do inside our nose. And if you notice when she was sticking her tongue out, they have two pieces on their tongue, a fork on their tongue. And that's how they can tell what direction their smell is coming from. Like we have two ears, helps us tell what direction sounds are coming from. They use their tongue to tell what
Split
direction
tongue.
smells are coming from.
The mouse is now blue.
My favorite.
A blue snowflake.
That's a blue
Ready
mouse.
to eat now.
It's a Smurf. That's the color of their shirts.
Yeah, I haven't seen that foot move for a while.
Yep, I think it's always, most times it's well.
He bit off one of the feet. No, but the other foot, you see it?
The other foot's probably just squished down in there, or she might have it in her mouth, but their teeth aren't really designed to bite off pieces, so they'll eat it whole. It takes them about a week to digest the whole mouse.
Which end will they eat first?
They like to start head first.
Head first?
It's easier for them to get it down the way the fur and the bones are oriented, so once it's dead, she'll find the head. Sometimes it takes a minute. And swallow them head first.
It's so silent in here.
How do you determine the size of the mouse that you feed?
They can eat a mouse that's like, I think 3 to 4 times the size of their head.
Wow.
So they're able to get very large mice down. And this one looks like it's about 2 or 3 times larger than her head. And you'll look and see as
It's
she
done. It's
swallows
headed to
the scales on her throat can really stretch out.
Right.
And they're able to get much larger things. And it's quite an amazing feat because you can imagine eating a hamburger 3 times the size of your head with no hands.
So they might be pretty vulnerable after they've eaten.
Yeah, they're very vulnerable after they eat. It's a very large meal.
See it?
So they'll usually find a place to hide for a while and get their energy back once they've digested the mouse
You see the
or
head
gotten
too?
it down
Jude.
further.
I'm here. You see the head on this side? No, you can stay on your side. You'll see it up better on your side.
So now
Right
she's
there, see it?
released the mouse,
Stay
so
right-
she knows that it's no longer alive. And she'll start searching for the head.
I see it.
You see? Oh, I've seen it all the time. Every 2 weeks. Yeah.
I can see the 2 jaws.
You do?
Kind of little.
Pretty neat, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And so earlier I was saying snakes don't have eyelids. And as we know, eyelids are very important for our way of functioning to keep our eyes moist and protected. Snakes actually have a specialized scale that's always covering their eye. That's how it stays moist and protected.
It holds on even though it's looking for its head, huh?
Yeah. And they actually shed it with when they shed their skin, you can see the eye cap on there.
Hmm.
So if it gets damaged, it gets replaced every time that they shed.
Now, will it defend itself before it starts eating if it gets attacked, like right now, or will it hold on for dear life and keep its food?
It probably would defend itself. As important as food is, living is a little more important.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like me getting attacked and then in and out.
Especially in that line.
Take the card, take the keys, I'm gonna wait for my burger.
Yeah.
Found the head.
Oh,
There she goes. So she's found the head. Sometimes they use their body and the coil they have around it kind of like an arm to keep it still while they eat. And sometimes they'll pull it out and try to eat it that way.
Trying to look for the perfect spot.
Yeah, where's the best bite?
It looks like she, no.
Think about it.
That's awesome.
There's the lips. Give me a kiss.
That's not. Oh, she found it. The
Did
neck.
you see that, Ken?
Yeah.
Big jaw bite.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Will you tell us again about the jaw?
So their jaw is oriented a different way than ours, and it has two separate bones.
Mm.
So they're able to open their mouth much wider than us,
Mm.
and also kind of manipulate their bones back and forth to be able to pull the mouse into their mouth.
Hmm. All snakes or just this variety? Have
All
that
snakes,
feature?
yeah.
Oh, wow. What is Neptune's breed again?
A corn snake.
Corn.
Corn, that's right.
Yeah, they're not native to this part of the United States, so you wouldn't see them out on trails.
Hmm. Is this their standard color or do they have variations?
They actually do have a lot of variation in their color, and a lot of corn snakes have different forms of albinism.
Hmm.
So I think she has a little bit of albinism, and it gives her that orangey color.
Hmm.
I think naturally they're more of a brown. So they can range from like orange and yellow all the way up to like a pure white, like an albino animal you might think of normally.
And then did you say you feed the snakes only once every 4 months? Or they can survive
Twice, they can go 4 months.
There
We
you
usually
go.
feed them twice a month.
twice a month?
And they can eat as often as once a week.
The meal has
And do they
begun.
drink water too?
They do, yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's very
Lisa,
interesting to see.
Lisa.
They like move
Lisa.
their jaw, and you can see them kind of
Lisa.
swallowing.
Find it out.
Oh my goodness. Neptune?
Oh, Snowflake, get up and run.
Thank you.
She did.
One that didn't get away.
Is she gonna eat it? Eat it. Okay, yeah, she's
How many swallows does it take to get a mouse down?
Depends on the mouse, I'm sure.
In the wild, how do they, what's their water source? Obviously, I mean,
They usually live near like a body of water.
and they'll trek right on down and just get whatever water?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. And how do you serve them water? You just
They have bowls that
they
they
do. Wow.
Yeah.
So
We give them water bowls for them to not only drink but also to bathe in.
Mm.
And it really helps for when they're shedding or if it's really hot outside, they can cool down.
Mm-hmm.
Are all the snakes on a different feeding regimen?
We feed the king snakes a little bit more and the ball python a little bit more. But they're all basically twice a month. We like to feed the king snakes and the ball python like once a week if we can. We've been having a little bit of issues getting mice lately
Oh.
with
yeah,
everything that's
yeah,
going
right.
on. Yeah.
How often do people get to see the
We do
entertainment?
the feeding once a week, every Saturday at noon.
Okay.
What kind of mouse was that?
A domestic mouse? I'm not sure if there's a.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Field mice, right? Field
Yeah.
mice and
So
deer
these
mice.
the mice we feed them are captive bred. They're kind of the same as a pet mouse. So they've never seen a snake before, so they don't really know what's coming. It's kind of nicer for them.
That's why you
We
walk up
realized
and
that
give it a
just now.
kiss, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're usually curious
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
snake more than anything. Yeah.
Glad to meet you. Now I'm gonna eat you.
If they only knew what was coming.
This is the lap mouse that they
Pretty
raised
much.
at the lap.
Yeah.
Who's first time seeing a snake eat?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Actually, I see.
How do you
Yeah.
spell corin? It's C-O-R-A-N?
Corn, like what you eat.
Oh, corn.
Yeah.
Corn
Sorry,
snake.
it's hard to hear with the.
Corn snake, okay.
That's really cool.
Now, how large would the mouse be coming out the other end?
I'd say probably about that.
Yeah?
They get a lot of the
Oh my goodness.
energy and product out of it, and then just the waste comes out about that size.
Okay.
Maybe about half, I'd say.
Alright, how long after they eat it?
About a week.
About a week?
4
Get
days
that?
to a week, yeah.
Okay.
It's cage cleaning time, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And
Next
I may have
week,
missed how
if
long to
you're
probably
gonna do this
consume
again?
the whole nuts, get it inside its.
It's different every snake and every feeding. So sometimes it's faster and sometimes they're a little bit slower.
Depends on how hungry they are, huh?
Yeah, I would say
Crazy.
5 minutes.
Yeah, anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We've had some snakes take as long as 15 for larger mice.
And some like 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
We
is
hang on
so
feeding schedule.
cool.
Yeah.
Don't get your tail.
Maybe swallow their own tail.
That'd be quite a story.
I mean, it's happened before.
Some snakes actually will eat their own tail. So snakes like king snakes, they eat other snakes in the wild.
Oh, so
So
They fought us another
they
thing.
thought
if they get hungry enough, they might mistake their tail for a different snake and start eating it.
now will they finish?
To the point to where they will actually die, yeah.
Right, because it can't regurgitate.
Yeah, like they can, but I think usually it's too late.
Oh.
You know,
I'm
you
not
can
sure,
both
I'm
mistake
guessing they
it.
don't have a strong sense of
Come on,
pain.
go for
Right,
a
right.
trade.
tomorrow we could go to
Kind of put it
another
together that they're eating their own
Oh, I
tail.
don't know. I don't
But it
know.
does happen.
Is it open?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's open.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know if it's open with COVID. I'm not sure if they're open again. You wanna watch the whole thing or do you wanna go?
So you can kind of
Yeah, I
see
watched
how
the
her
whole thing
throat is
before.
stretching out really wide
wanna go
to fit the mouse in
I
there.
watched the whole thing.
And you
Did
can kind of see how much bigger the mouse is than her head, even though she's got her tail covering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's doing that side to side motion with her bottom jaw to help bring the mouse in.
Shave it down.
Yeah. They also have a lot of saliva to help kind of start squishing the mouse down and make it easier to swallow.
Oh, right. I did that job.
Wow.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Holy smokes.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I know.
Seems to be taking her time today. And it's interesting because every feeding is different. Even if you feed the same snake, the same size mouse, a different
really?
time, they might eat it faster or slower or not even eat it all sometimes.
Depends how hungry they
It
are.
depends on how hungry they are.
But they don't feel like mouth today.
Yeah.
They want something.
Feel like a hamburger instead.
Exactly. Feel like a little bird.
Yeah, so most snakes eat rodents. There are some species of snakes that eat eggs and small insects and things like that, especially depending on their age. Like younger snakes will eat like smaller things like lizards and insects and eggs and things like that. But some snakes specialize on eggs.
How old is this one?
How old do you think Neptune is?
Yeah,
Like
honestly,
4 or 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can live up to 15 to 20 years. So she's still relatively young.
You don't find any more horny toads around.
Yeah, you have to go out into the desert for those
Desert.
guys. Yeah. shoulders is usually
Yeah.
kind of the hardest.
Not
part.
bad, looks like it.
He should have died. Or she.
So snakes also have a lot of different methods of reproducing. Most snakes lay eggs, and their eggs are more of like a leathery texture instead of like a chicken egg that's hard, and that allows for more gas exchange. And some snakes actually give live birth, but it's in a sense that they have an egg inside and then it hatches right before it comes out. So they call that ovoviviparous. So ovo meaning egg and vive meaning live. So it's kind of a combination of laying eggs and also giving live birth.
Same time. Wow.
Yeah, because reptiles don't have a placenta, so it's not technically a live birth.
Right.
But what comes out is alive, not in an egg anymore. So
How many?
depends on the snake. I'm not sure what an average clutch size is, but quite a few.
Okay.
Since the eggs are, depending on the species of snake, they may or may not take care of their young. Usually they just kind of let them go.
No nursing?
Yeah, no. So, yeah. So if they're just going to let them go in the wild, they have a strategy of having more because they're more likely to get eaten when they're really young.
Right.
So if you're not going to take care of your babies, you have to have a bunch of them.
Now, is it always birds that eat them, or is there other?
Oh, there's other things, birds, probably, if they're small enough, other snakes or rodents
Okay.
or anything like that. There's a lot of like scavenging animals and they kind of become fair game when they're young.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Being young is not the place to be.
Yeah. She's still working on the shoulders there.
Mm-hmm.
Strong. Wow.
Wow. Now it's good, get it down.
Yeah, snakes are really, really strong. They're mostly just like a backbone and a bunch of muscle.
Muscles.
Big tube of muscles.
How long is Neptune? How many feet?
I'd say 3, maybe 4. Probably like 3.5.
Yeah,
I'd say about 3.5, 4 feet.
Yeah.
They're hard to measure because when you try to stretch them out,
Right.
they scrunch back in.
Yeah.
Because his thumb is easy to squash.
And they breathe through their nose while they're doing this?
Yeah, I was curious about that. If they are, it'd be very hard to breathe with a giant mouse in your throat.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm thinking they either have like an area, like a tube that doesn't get compressed, or they hold their breath.
Oh.
So since snakes have a much lower metabolism than us, they don't need as much energy, so they can survive much longer without breathing than for us.
For larger snakes, I know that they actually have a they can
They have
actually
a
sort of
special
extend,
tube.
they can basically extend their windpipe outside
Whoa.
past the food so that they can breathe while the food is like still going through. It's weird.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Cause like you see the food going down, all of a sudden like, it's like this tube that just pops out. It's like
All right.
All snakes swim?
I think so. I think they have the ability to swim.
yeah, I think pretty sure they're capable. Yeah.
Although I'm not sure how Rogue would do in water. She's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Captain's really kind of struggling with something.
Yeah, she's having some trouble getting past the
Yeah, it's
shoulders,
big nuts, yeah.
She will be full for a while.
which is good.
How do you view the audio that you were taking? Kate?
go online.
Oh yeah, so
and-
we're actually doing a Facebook live streaming.
Mhm.
So if you go into our Facebook page, you can go back and watch the video.
Okay.
And either sometime this week or next week, we're still working on it. We'll be uploading these to our YouTube channel as well.
Oh, cool.
Great, thanks you guys. You wanna stay or wanna go?
He's like, well, if I can watch it on video later.
I've seen that. Seen this enough times.
Well, I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Good weekend,
coming.
guys.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, all the fish are on the ground.
I'll just pick them up.
Toss 'em back in.
It's fine, they're just sleeping.
You really sharpen with this one, aren't you?
Yeah. I've seen her eat mice that big.
Just a small tip.
Oh, thank you.
You're wonderful. What is your name again?
Jeanette,
Thank you.
have a good day.
She's getting tired.
He's
Yeah.
really having a hard time.
So I'm gonna take a break from this.
I know, really.
You can see how vulnerable they can be.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I've seen her eat mice that big before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. It's after one.
Having a tough time. Oh, he's trying more.
You can do it.
He can do it. He did most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she got past the shoulders, which
Right.
hard
That's the
to
hardest
do.
time.
yeah. Although hard to say, so it's past the shoulders.
Yeah. He's moving his
Although that was
lower,
a very chunky mouse, so
he's moving his lower jaw.
Yeah. Once she gets past those shoulders, she should be
It's
fine.
just what?
yeah, it looks like she's past the shoulders from the
Just
way
like
the hands
giving
are.
birth. When she passes the pole, the baby pops up.
Yeah.
I know, it's amazing how big they open it.
Now, does the whole mouse have to be inside before the juices, if you will, start digesting it, or?
Yeah, their saliva does a little bit of digesting, but it does have to get, and it actually
All
has
the
to
way down
get
to the
pretty
stomach.
far down. They have a
Yeah.
really long esophagus,
Ah,
so their stomach is probably almost halfway down their body.
oh, wow.
So you can
So
see
it
like
does
it
have to move
moves.
along.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
works
moves
the
pretty
whole time.
far before it kind of stops.
Huh.
But once they get it down past their jaw, it goes real quick.
Huh.
Boom. It's almost.
You got a long way to go, but it's
Like, almost half.
Yeah, almost half.
I wonder if they get impatient too.
Probably.
come on.
I'm hungry. Couldn't get down my throat. And you can see right behind her head, she's kind of doing an S-shaped motion,
Yeah, yeah.
and that kind of helps pull the mouse in.
Ah.
So it kind of
Oh,
creates
so-
like a corner to pull the mouse in.
Oh, okay, so that's, they tilt it.
Yeah, so when she moves in that way, it kind of like creates something for it to grab onto to pull in.
Oh, there you go. And you can see the whole body.
Hello.
Hi.
So we're finishing up our animal feeding. So Neptune here is finishing up her mouth. She just constricted.
That was a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Neptune is a corn snake.
Oh,
They're not native to the area. They're native to kind of eastern United States. She was a pet that someone couldn't take care of anymore. Donated to us, so we use her as an education animal.
Oh, okay.
Hasn't actually passed the shoulder yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can see on the side still.
The plot thickens.
It's like, I'm tired.
Yeah. She's been working at it for probably 20 minutes, I'd say.
Wow. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, we have more snakes here. A couple native ones.
Oh, I see. Look at this one. It's Medusa. Coastal rosy boa.
Yeah, so the coastal rosy boas are native to California. They're actually no longer native to the wetlands area. They're extinct in this area. The term for that is called extirpated. So she's extirpated from the wetlands area, but they still live in the deserts and the foothills and some of the coastal areas in California. But since the housing development and everything around here created such a small habitat that they're not able to have a population.
He's biting his own body.
Yeah, it just moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why I couldn't get it down.
Hi.
We're live streaming a snake feeding. What kind of meeting? Snake feeding.
Oh, very good. I and a friend took 6 kids at Santiago Oaks, and we saw a gopher snake that was too cool. It was as long as I am tall.
Yeah, they can get to be pretty long.
Yeah, it was really impressive.
We've got a couple of
Yeah, that's,
We're just live streaming our snake feeding. It's working. It's almost.
yeah. Still hasn't gotten that one shoulder though, huh?
Because his body is in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. The
It's so
shoulder's on the other side of this
Right,
body, yeah.
fighting himself.
Said Brittany, snakes are not too smart. She's can't get that shoulder down because the shoulder is on the other side of its body.
He's fighting his own body.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Now
you
he's
can see over
fighting.
here.
We might have to move her a little bit.
Yeah, they're not right. I won't lie to you, they're not
Early,
right.
now at least he moves a little bit early. His lower jaw is right on his own body.
Oh, yeah. I think she'll move.
Yeah, she's
She'll
moving
get it.
it.
She'll figure
She's
it out.
moving it.
Oh, yeah, she's
Yeah,
made
she's
some
finally
progress
like,
there.
oh, that's why it's like, I couldn't swallow. I couldn't swallow part of my own body.
Tastes good. So what about the tongue? Where does the tongue just stays down in the,
I think so, yeah. I think it just kind of gets squished to the side. That'd be my guess.
yeah. Gotta get that shoulder over.
You gotta get his own body out.
Yeah.
Munch, munch, munch. Yeah. Yummy.
That's right.
Nice and fresh.
Yeah.
What kind of a snake is that?
A corn snake.
Oh, very good.
They're not native to this part of the United States, but she was a pet that someone couldn't take care of anymore.
There you
So
go.
we used her as an education animal.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna go faster. His body finally
Finally
out
got
the
it.
way.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, so it should be pretty quick after
Yeah.
this. She's gotten
Yeah.
down most of it.
right, right.
Almost got the
Oh,
shoulder in.
Yeah,
He's-
she'll finish this up.
yeah,
real
he's
quick.
trying-
Now she got the shoulder.
He finally figured out.
He or
Fascinating.
I know.
be fascinated.
He was so quick.
You know,
Almost to the tail now.
Maybe better from over here.
little-
Final stretch.
Yeah. I got the pun. for now.
Wow.
It's a good sized mouse too.
Yeah, she'll be good for a few weeks.
Yeah. Couple of legs and a tail. Whoa, that was a good bite. I'll French that over there, yeah. Yeah, the last gas. Wow. There it goes.
So close, but so
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
yeah. That's smooth sailing from here. Taking her sweet time.
She's probably tired.
Yeah, that's a
It's gotta
quite
be,
a challenge.
gotta be pretty tiring.
Yeah.
Putting the,
Well, thank you. You too.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So, in the wild, does the snake has to have a way, a mechanism to like make the rats like not moving anymore before swallowing it?
Yeah, so what they do, snakes have two different methods. This kind is a constrictor. So what they'll do is they'll grab onto their food and wrap around it and suffocate it until it's no longer alive. Another method is with venom.
Yeah.
So the snakes will bite them and then follow them until they are not going to attack them when they eat them.
Oh, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
almost. mouth really gets squeezed down, doesn't it?
Yeah, they've got really strong muscles and the saliva helps kind of squish it down at the
Yeah.
skin.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like.
Yeah, you can barely.
Yeah, you would expect a much bigger balls going down there.
Well, mice also tend to look bigger than they actually are. It's mainly fluff.
Yeah, they're.
You do get squeezed.
Yeah, like if you ever see a mouse get wet, they look super skinny.
Ah, okay.
Down to the spaghetti tail.
Yummy.
So you can really see now the S-shaped motion she's
Yes,
doing
yes.
to push it back.
He looks funny.
Looks like a tongue, huh?
If I go out, you know, go, wow, he has a long tongue.
Yeah. Sticking his tongue out again.
If I just walk in, I would say, whoa.
Yeah.
Now, will you let him sit in this cage to digest, or do you move back there?
Yeah, we'll let her sit for like 10 minutes so it gets down far
I
enough.
go longer with this one.
Yeah, today we'll probably let her sit for like 20 minutes to let it get further down in their body because they are capable of regurgitating
Right.
if they get stressed out too soon after they
Ah.
eat.
That I
And
know.
that's not fun for anybody.
I'll bet. You don't
So
want to lose
we-
a snake either.
We let them settle, yeah.
Close.
You kind of see the shape of the house.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, right?
Yeah.
Be careful. Almost.
We're down to the tail.
This much food.
Finally down to the tail.
Just a bit. She is gonna have such good food coming up.
Yeah.
So you probably wait 20 minutes before you put her back this time.
Yeah. You don't want her keeping all that up, she works so hard.
Yeah. Have you guys seen a snake bark?
Yes, firsthand.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was it?
Not pleasant.
Not pleasant?
Yeah.
Was it fast or slow?
It's fast.
Oh.
It's fast. Yeah. What had happened was we had taken one of our snakes, Bobo, up there, the rosy boa, out to an event I think it was it was a fundraiser.
Uh-huh.
So we had taken him out to just show him around and teach people about snakes and stuff. What we didn't know at the time was that he had eaten 2 days prior.
2 days?
2 days, yeah. I think someone may have neglected to actually write down that he had eaten.
Uh-oh.
So we found him out there. He was doing fine for the good, first hour or two of the event, and they started acting pretty weird. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna put you down. So I put him down, and all of a sudden, just like out comes his food. It's like, oh, that's half digested. I'm not touching that.
Need gloves.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it was one of those. Does anybody have any paper towels?
Hopefully none in the audience did the same thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Imagine after 2 days, it's already
Oh yeah.
digested.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gotta be
like
pretty
it-
gross.
Like it still resembled a mouse, but at the same time, it did not resemble a mouse.
Ugh.
Was slimy and
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
not pleasant.
did.
Yay.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you for giving us a great show.
Enjoy your meal.
Well, I'm gonna go enjoy my meal.
That's right.
Yeah, now it's lunchtime. Who's hungry?
Thank you very much. Great tour.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really great tour.
Went through all this time and didn't know names or anything, so we feel like
Yeah.
we
that little thing that will really
Educated.
help us, the path.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that thing too, yeah.
That will really help
Thank
us.
you very much. Take care, everybody.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Sure. So thank you for joining us for our virtual fly on the wall animal feeding. I hope you were able to enjoy it. Sorry for all of the delay with Neptune eating, but as you can all guess, animals are very unpredictable. We also have to buy the food that we feed to our animals, so we greatly appreciate any donations you can give us, especially in these hard times. We know it's tough for everyone, including us. So thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you have a great week. See you next week.